Okay, hope you can hear me well. Today we will be talking about what if Sherlock Holmes was sales, which, given his attitude, would be a pretty funny thing to watch. So we will disarm the MEDDPICC methodology. And for those who work with me, I know it makes me ask you a lot of questions, so which aren't always very convenient for you. However, there is a higher goal behind it. And today I will try to make this goal a little bit closer to you. So MEDDPICC is something that IT industry, the sales departments, they are pretty fond of. They are using it a lot. And it's a methodology to maybe sort the information and to get the structure which makes it easier for you to understand whether you are going with the deal north or south, to have kind of a mind map of a certain project you are working for. And why I put Sir Holmes in it? Because it kind of reminds an investigation. So let's, for example, for now, let's forget we are in sales. Let's imagine we are a law enforcement. And I don't know if you had some, law enforcement thing going on when you were younger. Well, I did. I wanted to be, James Bond, Sherlock Holmes, all those masculine guys who were solving problems, saving lives, and extinguishing the dangers in any way possible. And this is why pick your choice. I mean, every character here on the slide is in some way conducting an investigation. I think the one a little bit off is Mr. House, who is also conducting an investigation. However, his enemies are a little bit different. So how can we picture a process of investigation? There is a certain thesis, like the crime has happened, or he's guilty, or the assumption is that this happened, which is a repetition. Then there is a process, gathering evidence, checking forensics, interviewing the witnesses, doing the notes, doing the paperwork, talking to your superiors, and then there is some kind of conclusion. For example, he's guilty, or he's not guilty, or this was an accident. And this conclusion is backed up by some kind of an authority, a court, or a superior saying, yes, this was an accident. Here is my signature, which kind of resembles sales, right? You get this final sign-off on the purchase order agreement, etc. Now, in this process of investigation, there is so-called chain of custody. So a chain of activities you should be doing to achieve the results you want, or to achieve the right result. Because maybe sometimes you want for the person to be guilty and she or he is simply not. But there is a line of activity you need to follow. The same in sales. And this chain of activity can be mapped to our methodology MEDDPICC. I hope you remember we will not be going through great criminal TV series. We will be going about sales methodology called MEDDPICC. Now, going through the example of sales process to an investigation, we have certain phases. And those phases can be, in a highest picture, in my opinion, mapped to a criteria. In every part of sales process, you will be seeing different criteria. You will be talking to different set of people, and they will change as you will go along, as you will pass those stages. Let's maybe start with functional. This is the initial matching to a customer's need, to their requirements. So if the solution is a fit, does it answer his challenge? So will the deployment, so I sell software, so I will say if the deployment of my software will help him improve in the business area. So if this will improve, what will be the value added? Will it be a cut of the costs? Will it be a more productivity, happier users? Maybe he will get a promotion, something that is a business outcome. And what the success look like. So what the success look like is a functional part. I don't care that I will deploy a new firewall and I will block some potentially malicious connections. I do care that while I block this potential, that I will avoid losing some sensitive data or disrupting my IT processes, which would inevitably lead to business losses. That's the functional. Now, if we know how the success looks like, if we know that we can solve the challenge via combination of features, operation, and people involved, then we can go to a technical part. So a technical part is, okay, does it fit to my infrastructure? So I'm staying in the IT area here, right? Does it fit to my infrastructure? Do I have the infrastructure necessary to support your solution? Will I have, sometimes it's, as trivial as, will I have a space to put this hardware in it and it will be stored safely? What are the database requirements? What are the broadband requirements for the solution to work? How it will scale? What is the number of users and what are the groups of users? Will each group of these users be able to connect and do the work safely going through the solution? For example, if it's a proxy. So it's purely technical. Now, we managed to say it's potentially a fit. We proved technically, often a proof of concept or at least a live demo is part of this validation. Then we can move to a financial part. So, I always like to put finance as a part of functional, but not in a term of negotiations, rather in a term of, okay, this solution with the deployment in an industry and company like yours is usually between this and this value range. Is it something within your budget? So I'm not talking whether do you have budget for it. No, I'm just saying maybe not a warning, but a good advice. If you will invest your time, you need to be prepared that once we will show you the cost, it will be within this range. Can you take it? Is it something that you're prepared for? Something like this. But let's say yes, and the functional has been passed, and the technical has been passed, and the financial has been opened. So one thing is the budget, second is the purchase processing. So who will need to do what to get this over the line? And the last thing is so-called paper process. And this is mainly important for the seller itself, meaning, okay, if I will get a confirmation that it fits, that it can be deployed, that the budget is available, and I'm giving my final offer, then what after this offer is accepted happens to get the whatever you care for, sign back agreement or a purchase order. Now, these all three phases are not like rock solid. So let's say you're in a functional part and you say, okay, I can deliver you a data protection software which can give you the visibility over your data and the means to control your data, which will move to improving metrics like nullifying the potential leakages in this area. For example, nullifying the leakages of sensitive data into the external drives on your endpoints, or improving the data retention visibility from 60% to 80% because of ability to scan bigger file storages. Sorry for the pauses, I'm making this up of my head, right? Now you're going to a technical, but then you have a question. Okay, we are deploying a new set of endpoints, and they will be on the newest macOS systems. Will your solution work with it? It's still technical, but maybe it is a little bit endangering the functional part, because if it's not, then the solution is not a fit. Or maybe this will need some kind of feature requests, which will also affect the financial part. So already in technical, you're affecting the financial. Or just maybe the customer doesn't have enough infrastructure, they will need to buy an appliance from you, which also affect the financial part. So they are interconnected. You treat them, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean with their parlay from the first movie, which in my opinion was the best, like most of the first movies in the series. It's guidelines, not rules. One thing that is underlying, probably you noticed, is who. And as the, again, back to investigation, as the investigation proceeds, also the people are changing. So you get new witness, potentially like more valuable witness, or just witness that you didn't interview in the past. The same functional, technical, financial, who might be different. There will be also the same people, like for example, the project lead, but functional is usually mix of business and technical. Technical is technical, financial is mostly business, but the technical will probably have the power of recommendation. I kind of forgot that we are talking about MEDDPICC, right? No, this will exactly translate to MEDDPICC, and that's why I underlined two things, that those stages are interconnected and that there is a different who, because we are going into the MEDDPICC. And I will go one by one with a short explanation. Metrics are something that is directly tied to a business. So, for example, if you are doing a POC of data loss prevention, and there is one of the criteria that is saying from this test data, you will need to catch at least 80% of transactions which are considered data leakage, an incident. That's a criteria and that's not a metric. Metrics are tied to business. I will repeat, metrics are tied to business. So what is the business expecting from the data loss prevention? Maybe, like I said, nullifying the ability for people to leak the data into their external drives. Maybe it is about having the ability to uncover what sensitive data lies in designated storages for the auditing purposes. So the metric here is ability to fulfill the IT audit requirements. So metrics are more high level, directly connected to business of your customer, directly solving the pain, more tied to a functional part. Someone will ask me, okay, but if there is something like, for example, a firewall performance or firewall performance with SSL inspection turned on, that's a straightway metric, right? Yes, but not here. I will go to it. The economic buyer. The economic buyer is there are let's say it's, for me it's a little bit blurry because some people say the economic buyer is the person who does a final yes. Some says it's a final signature. For me, the best way to describe an economic buyer, it's a budget owner. So he owns the budget. Probably he has someone else who needs to sign, like for example, a head of procurement, but the budget is his and he does with it maybe not as he please, but generally as he wants by the corporate procedure. So economic buyer, budget owner. Decision process. What needs to happen for the decision to be taken? So maybe it's an initial RFI, just looking on the market, then going into the RFP, which will evaluate the offers based on criteria. Then there will be a vendor shortlist, a technical presentation or POC, and then one final vendor invited to commercial negotiations, which will follow with the agreement, and then a purchase order. So what is the process? You can put it like a map, right, with the milestones. The decision criteria, bang. the firewall performance, the SSL inspection performance, the ability to detect malware, the ability to detect sensitive data within the files. Those are decision criteria. Now, one thing, the decision criteria are very much tied to all of the phases. So functional, is this a fit? Will this help us solve the challenge? It's both criteria and metrics. But technical, it's criteria. Can it work with Microsoft infrastructure? Will it be able to inspect Linux server? Will it be able to detect data A, B, C via some kind of classification engine? Does it have a sandbox? Those are criteria. Financial as well. Is it cheaper than X? What is the price of the renewal after X years? Also, financial criteria. So criteria mixed. Decision process, by the way, also mixed because it goes through all the phases. Economic buyer usually starts with technical and some financial. Metrics, purely functional. Maybe not purely, but 90%. Paper process. There is a decision process. In this decision, certain documents are needed. Answer to RFI, offer, agreement, maybe some kind of detailed explanation in the last part. Renewal price guarantee. Those are documents which are needed, and those the paper process. The paper process is extremely important once we get to initial yes, because then it's all about how to get this over the line in terms of how to get a signed agreement, how to get the purchase order, who needs to sign it, and when he needs to sign it, what is the process of getting either agreement or purchase order. Usually the main thing about paper process, and it's highly tied to a financial part. So the last stage. Identify pain. We should actually start from this one, but it's a functional. I mean, pain is everywhere. Some people say life is pain. I played a game called Max Payne when I was young. Very great one. But the pain is where we start. If customer doesn't have a problem, he doesn't need a solution to it. So we need to quantify, we need to uncover and quantify this pain in terms of what is the business problem. It's mostly functional. The pain is, by the way, mostly functional. What could improve business of our customer? How can our solution improve the business of a customer enough that he will take an action, for example, engage with us? This is tied also to a competition, because what people tend to forget, the main competition everyone faces is doing nothing. I mean, even your morning jogging, the biggest competition of it is you doing nothing. So this is one. But of course, the competition is also your rivals from the market, maybe some kind of a workaround. For example, the customer will change the process entirely to avoid, so he will choose to avoid the risk by, for example, shutting down some part of the process. So, the competition, three things. It can be either doing nothing, your competitor, or a workaround. And then the champion. So we mentioned economic buyer as the person who holds the budget. Often this person is not even involved in the purchase process until last stage. So for example, you have the IT administrators and IT security analysts doing all the technical phase, validating the solution, while the economic buyer is the IT director who just reads the report of what they found out. A champion is a guy who you can consider your friend in a deal. A friend in need is a friend indeed, right? So a champion is a guy who you call and say, okay, how we are doing, right? And you can expect it. You trust him enough that you take his answer under consideration. And this is the guy you prepare to go to talk to economic buyer if you cannot talk to him yourself, because you will not always get the contact with power. Sometimes you will need to go through champion. Your champion can connect you to power, but you care mostly about your champion. That's your, I mean, you're a Robin to his Batman, not the other way around. You need to make him the best Batman so he can go to the mayor of Gotham City and convince him for the Batman and Robin to stay in Gotham City. Oh, I may be taking this too far, but something like this. You get my point. So, and all those, what are all those informations gathered into those areas are made for you to do? These are made to feel you safe about the project you are leading. All of us. I mean, all of us sellers. So if I'm taking this, if I'm doing a review with you or we are talking and I'm asking you things connected to those areas, it's mostly because I want you to feel safe and I want myself to feel safe and I want my managers to feel safe because this is the most surest way to achieve the peace of mind in work. Or you can meditate, but also you can use MEDDPICC and deliver like accurate information so you know where the deal is going. And this is why it's good to know. You don't have to, follow it by heart, but it's good if you can give me an answer about each one of those areas. And I'm also prepared to give an answer about each of those areas in the project we are working together. And now I hope, I mean, I sincerely hope, because this will not end, this, constructing the investigation around the MEDDPICC. I hope you got a little bit more understanding of why we do it. With this, the next cybersecurity will be about fish burgers. So what actually hackers do to get us fished and how to prevent it by using the right tech. I hope it will be interesting and have a great day ahead. Cheers.